The 1952 Bolivian National Revolution, a turning point in Latin America. In the mid-20th century, Bolivia stood on the brink of social upheaval. Economic inequality, political exclusion, and an oligarchic elite fueled decades of unrest. In April 1952, a revolutionary storm broke out, forever altering the country's political, social, and economic fabric. Led by the Movimiento Nacionalista Revolucionario, MNER, the Bolivian National Revolution became one of the most influential transformations in Latin America, introducing land reform, universal suffrage, and the nationalization of major industries. Background: a nation on the brink. Before 1952, Bolivia was a deeply divided country. A small elite controlled wealth, land, and political power. The indigenous majority was disenfranchised and marginalized. Tin mining, the backbone of the economy, was dominated by a handful of wealthy families known as the Rosca. Despite a growing sense of nationalism after Bolivia's loss in the Chaco War, 1932 to 1935, little changed. Widespread dissatisfaction with the oligarchic order gave rise to new political movements, most notably the MNR, which blended nationalism, socialism, and anti-imperialism. The 1951 election and coup attempt. In the 1951 presidential election, MNR candidate Victor Paz Estenssoro won, but the conservative military refused to accept the result. A coup installed a puppet government, but resistance grew. On April 9, 1952, the MNR, supported by urban workers, miners, and segments of the military, launched an armed uprising. The revolt quickly overpowered the military regime. Within 3 days, the revolutionaries took La Paz, and Paz Estenssoro was reinstated as president in exile. The revolution had succeeded. Revolutionary reforms. Once in power, the MNR implemented a sweeping reform agenda. Universal suffrage. For the first time, indigenous Bolivians and women were granted the right to vote. This expanded the electorate from about 200,000 to over 1 million, turning Bolivia into a true mass democracy. Land reform. The Agrarian Reform Law, 1953, broke up large estates and redistributed land to indigenous peasants. Though uneven in implementation, it ended the traditional latifundio system and significantly weakened the landed aristocracy. Nationalization of tin mines. The MNR nationalized Bolivia's major tin mines under the newly formed Comibol, Mining Corporation of Bolivia. This aimed to place the country's key resource under state control and benefit the broader population rather than a wealthy few. Education and labor. The MNR expanded access to education, especially in rural areas, and empowered labor unions, especially the powerful Miners' Federation, FSTMB, to play a major role in governance. Challenges and decline. Despite its achievements, the revolution faced immense challenges. Economic instability, from over-reliance on tin hyperinflation and growing government deficits, tensions between workers' militias and the armed forces' internal divisions within the MNR. By the late 1950s, U.S. influence had grown, and Bolivia began adopting more moderate, market-oriented policies. Paz Estenssoro would serve multiple terms, but the revolutionary momentum slowly diminished. In 1964, a military coup ended the MNR's long reign, ushering in another era of dictatorship. Legacy. The 1952 Bolivian National Revolution remains one of the most significant social transformations in Latin American history. It reshaped land ownership and political power, integrated indigenous people into national life, inspired leftist movements across the continent. Though later governments rolled back many reforms, the revolution's core legacy, a more inclusive political system and national identity, endures. It paved the way for future leaders like Evo Morales, who built on its vision of indigenous empowerment and resource nationalism.